let's give them something to cheer for now.
And those are some very important uprights that are coming down and may end up in the Tennessee River tonight.
Time now for the College Football Enquirer. Here's Pat, Russ, and Dan.
All right, welcome to the pod. And I want to discuss a new possible rule. Spirited in with our friends, the Just Means More conference, the SEC, which has had some memorable field stormings and through the years. And I think as a fan who is not down there, not a player, not any of that, it's kind of, certainly great television. Probably one of the most memorable scenes on television last year was the Tennessee-Alabama post-game. Fans out in the field. They eventually took the goalposts and carried them down the Tennessee River and hucked them in. Like some good legendary stuff. Sounds like it's out of the 1930s and stuff. That's fun. The adults in the room, and I appreciate that. The SEC office is not a fan of field storming. They routinely throw these fines out that nobody cares about because it's like they try to tell the fans, don't storm the field. It'll cost you $250,000. And they're like, dude, everyone's rich around here. This, you tell us every year you make $1 billion or something. Whatever. Daddy can pay the fine. I'm running out there. However, they're now stepping it up in what I think is quite an ingenious plan. Pat, Forde, explain the SEC's potential way of ending the field storming.
Yeah, this is it's a proposal, one of a few different proposals. It's not necessarily a done deal by any means, but they've had a working group in the SEC to study event safety. And interesting timing when this working group was convened. It was November 4th last year, so it was a couple of weeks after the Tennessee field storm and a day before LSU then stormed the field against Alabama. So the working group's headed by Alabama's AD, Greg Byrne, who's tired of watching his team getting field stormed, Mitch Barnhart of Kentucky, who's tired of watching his basketball team get court stormed, and Josh Brooks, the Georgia AD, who's logically the team that's going to get field stormed next if they ever lose again. So anyway, they've been working on a bunch of proposals for several months, and they're going to send some stuff to the league's athletic directors. There's an AD meeting coming up. And then the thought is that they will then have a plan that comes out of that they propose for the presidents and chancellors at the spring meetings in Destin. The plan, one of them, which does have some support, we'll see how much support, pretty intriguing. If you storm the field against, let's say Auburn, which hosts Georgia and plays Georgia every year, you storm the field September 30th in Jordan-Hare Stadium, you then could lose your home game your next home game against Georgia. They would move that to Athens, and so you would not get a home game in 2025. You would play 2024, 25, and 26 at Georgia. So that would hit them big time in the wallet, more than a six-figure fine. It would hit the fans big time in terms of losing a fun home game. And it would hit the coach who wants competitive advantage of playing at home. So that's the most intriguing one that's on the table. There was some talk about like flat out forfeiting the game that you storm, and that's not going to happen. Nobody's going for that. And there's some other alternatives they'll look at, but that's the one that's the most intriguing that actually may have a chance of passing.
So you would not lose the game. You would just move the game. You would lose the ability to host the next time you play that team at home. You would no longer, that game now goes to the other side.
Yes. Yep. And so you would have that year, theoretically, if there's still an 8-game SEC schedule, you'd have 3 at home and 5 on the road. If it's a 9-game schedule and you were already 4 and 5, it would be 3 and 6. So yeah, there'll be a lot behind it. It would be a powerful disincentive. Is that too much no fun league or is that something that should be discussed? That's the big debate.
It's pretty. It's a pretty stringent penalty. I remember hearing a few months ago about the whole forfeiture of the actual game, which seems insane, and I'm sure it would never happen. It would even, I don't know. It's even hard for me to see like this happening, but maybe it's maybe it's there just for kind of like threatening, like it could be there. I don't know I wonder if fans and like students who mostly rush the field care. I wonder if they're going to care. I wonder if they're going to have to get the message out, I guess, loud and clear. But just like it is now, it's going to have to be up to the school, really, right? To get that message out to their fans and students. And I think it's still up to the school to have enough, I guess, security, in the stadium. This is more of an incentive for the school, I guess, to do that. It's a tough one. I when they put the committee together, and it was kind of triggered by that one that Dan mentioned, which I was there for, the Tennessee-Alabama game, and it was crazy. It was a pretty insane environment, and of course there was the confrontation, you might call it, between the Alabama player and the Tennessee fan or two, which really did like trigger all this. And then, of course, a few weeks later, right, Alabama lost at LSU, and there was a field storming there, which I got caught in as well, and that one was pretty wild too. So, as we talked about earlier, off air, I think there's going to be a real push from the SEC to require schools to have some kind of secure path for the visiting team to get back to their locker room. And that's what's been an issue is some of these stadiums, you have to, the visiting team has to cross the field or cross the sideline to go through their tunnel. And that's where the issues really start, it seems like.
Yeah, especially when they have to cross through, like with the natural flow of the student section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and this is what all these things cause problems, right? We've had a lot of problems with the single tunnel at Michigan Stadium, but it's right behind the visiting bench. So about the one good thing that place does, and I'm fine. They're going to make the tunnel a little wider this year, so maybe there's less stuff. They've extended it, but it's like when Michigan stormed the field a couple years against Ohio State could just retreat quickly. Right, just run up behind your thing. It's not going to, and the student section is all the way in the other corner. So all that. All right, I have a few things on this.
Yep.
Again, I love a field storming. I've been caught in them. We all have. College football is interesting. Most places let the media down the field the last 5 minutes of the game or so. So you're on the field. You're at that right game, and they start coming. It's both safe and unsafe, right? It's like safe until it isn't safe. But there's just it's a little wild. In a lot of ways, you're better off getting the people out on the field than others. This is often forgotten, but 1993, I just re-looked this up. Wisconsin tried to storm the field against Michigan. They hadn't beaten Michigan in 12 years. This is when they were getting going, and they stormed. There was a fence near the student section, and the kids got squeezed up against the fence. And as the back surged, there was a way in, but it was too easy, or it was too hard to get onto the field. And 80 people, 60 were injured, 3 in critical condition. Everyone ended up living. But so this is 93. I mean, it's a while ago, but this can happen, right? It's like, it's all fun until 60 kids are in the hospital, right? For this, okay? Like, this should be a great day. You certainly don't need to storm the field. It's great visual, but you don't need it. And if, the NFL playoffs are wild as hell and no one runs out on the field. So you just stay in your section and cheer. I get what the SEC is doing because they are doing what the adults have to do and say, hey, a lot of fun, but what happens when someone gets run over? What happens when there's a fight? What happens when our own people get hurt? All of that. So I certainly get it. I think this would work. I think that the way you have to get fans to care is to take away competitive advantage. Like, that's really all they care about. It'd be like, it's either this or you have to give them like a 5-star recruit, like your next, like the NFL draft. You could just be like, you lost a 2nd round pick. All right, we're not running out there, right? But this would work. Now, couple things. One, the coach of the team winning would be the one most likely to, like, Like if Auburn wins that game, like Hugh Freeze is going to like, he's going to go crazy screaming to get everyone to stay. I mean, you could have like gunplay, like stand your ground, like do not run out on this field. They're going to be picking people off with no. So I think there would be an enormous incentive. Do not run out the field. Do not be. The question would be how many constitutes a field storming, because you could have some saboteurs.
Yeah.
Right. So what if you're a Georgia fan and you're at that Auburn game, and okay, game not going our way, we lose the game, but we somehow packed some extra jerseys, switch into Auburn gear, hop the wall. There would have
that
to
would
be
be excessive, but it is the SEC. So
they poisoned the damn trees.
More.
Okay, yeah, they tried to kill the trees in Auburn, at least Alabama. Too much Bama in them. Don't underestimate the saboteur. So I need some kind of clause in there for the saboteur fan. But I think this would work.
I think it's got a chance to work too. Now, there's a couple things here, a couple dynamics. One, if you look around the SEC, there are more schools that would figure to storm than be stormed, I would think, if you win a truly big game. So can you get a majority to vote for something that may end up that is more likely to penalize their school?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're Missouri and South Carolina and Vandy and the Mississippi schools, you want that chance to beat a big team and storm. Do you want to penalize you? Do you want to vote to penalize yourselves along the way? I don't know. So there's that. But to your point, like that, there's no doubt that there is historical precedent and there's reasons why the fuddy-duddies have to think this way, because it can be really damn dangerous. Dan, you mentioned that 1993 storming. I put that in the story about this. I was at an Ohio State-Wisconsin game in 2010 on the field when they stormed, and I still can't believe there weren't major injuries in the Wisconsin student section, because I was watching the students get pinned against a railing, and they were getting smashed by the people coming behind them, and the looks on their faces were terrifying. They were scared to death that they were going to get crushed to death, and somehow they didn't. But it can be bad. I mean, I look back, there was a fatality at a small school. Goalpost fell down, hit somebody on the head and killed him. There have been brain injuries, spinal injuries. Anytime you're taking down a large, heavy metal object with people underneath, there's the chance for catastrophic injury. So there are reasons to do that. But then the other thing that kind of what Ross alluded to, that the Tennessee thing escalated, I think, the unhappiness with not just let's do it, but let's revel in breaking the rules, so to speak. I mean, there's video of the president of the school, Jimmy Boyd, I think, with a cigar in his hand saying, I don't care. We'll do this every year. And I don't think that went over very well with Greg Sankey and some others. And then there was the incident on the field with Jermaine Burton and the female fan that he, hit in the head in some manner. And then the LSU game, there's video of a fan confronting an Alabama staffer, and the Alabama staffer, who, by the way, was like a Marine Corps Green Beret guy, is like, you don't want any of this, but he waited for the security to help get him off the field. So those things, I think, have really kind of accelerated the push from league brass to change, to come up with a harsher rule.
Well, to Pat's point about, if you're one of the smaller maybe programs, would you vote for this? The answer is probably unlikely, and that's been the point of the issue in the SEC on a number of issues, legislative issues, including right now what's going on with the future scheduling format is that for the most part the bottom of the league disagreeing with the top of the league. In the SEC, unlike a lot of conferences, just has that delineation between the top and the bottom, and it's almost split like right in half. It's like 8-8 or 7-7, and it rears its head on voting and legislative issues. In fact, I was just texting with a administrator at one of the bottom schools. This person did not know about the field storming proposal going around, and his response when I told him was three words. That's so stupid. So you can tell how this is going to go over with some of these the smaller programs in the league.
Yeah, I mean, you do pull that Alabama upset and you're Vanderbilt, and now you don't lose your, I don't know. It's hard. You want it to be fun, but it's got to be safe. There's got to be some respect. It's like, here's the thing too. We see this stuff all the time with like trends on social media, right? TikTok, and all of a sudden someone's doing some dangerous act, or they're, this famous like eat the Tide Pods, or whatever they're coming up with, the Borgs they were drinking, we were talking about. Like, these things go really quick, and so like Tennessee does one thing the next week, and all of a sudden the kids at LSU are like, well, we're gonna up that, right? How do we do more? I know it's all a photo op, and it just becomes insane. Like, the ideal situation, really, because you do want the space, it helps to just spread them out, right? Would be everyone gets off the field and you could pull down a gate and they could all easily run out on the field, like that Baylor line. Remember they run the kids? Right. Yeah. I love the Baylor. You got to go to Baylor. You got to be able to do a 40-yard dash to be a freshman. I like Baylor. That's Texas, man. Even our sociology majors got to run the 40 just to get a seat at the game. But right. It's the ultimate. And then you get out there, and they're great scenes. It is a great scene, a great celebration, but it unfortunately does go too far. So I don't know. If I'm an AD, it's like risk management, and I'm scared of things like, because you watch them have to jump over this, like, usually it's like this brick wall. It's not high, but they got to get up on it. Then there's like these hedges in the way, and they got to jump really quick. And how many people have just sprained their ankle? We just don't hear about, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
And so it ended. Now, this would eliminate one of the great trends, was after the kick 6, when some Auburn beats Alabama on that famous kick return. Someone brought someone's ashes out on the Jordan Hare field and dumped them in the celebration. So some lucky Auburn fan got to spend his rest of his days meshed into the field. I would think that would prohibit the ash spreading, which of course, it would limit the amount of ash spreading that goes on in the SEC. Yeah. Sure. So I don't know. We'll see. This will be a good vote. One other rule thing before we get to some other stuff. The NCAA football rules committee, the NCAA's playing rules oversight panel approved the recommendation from the NCAA football rules committee. Oh, my head. The clock's going to run after first downs in all Division I and II football games, in all but after the final 2 minutes. So no more first down. We wait for the chains to get set, except in the last 2 minutes of each half. There's the other ones, like if there's a penalty in the last play of the first quarter, you just assess it to the first. You don't have to have an untimed play to finish the first quarter. A rule I've been watching football all these years, I had no idea even existed. So that's not going to be a big deal. There's like one a week or something like that. Maybe. And so for 56 minutes of the game, the clock will run more often. They think it will be, under 10 plays a game will be taken away. Hard to tell because teams play faster or different stuff. Lukewarm about this myself. Again, I get the player safety. I think this is more TV doesn't want 4-hour games. Personally, I spend the whole year waiting for college football to be played. I'm rarely sitting there going, boy, I wish we could have less of it. But this is what they're going with for player safety. So thoughts on this finally? I know we've discussed it in the past, but thoughts on this finally becoming the rule. It will be a change, particularly in the fourth quarter when you got to wait till that final 2 minutes, and get to that 2 minute, because you're not just getting clock stopped if you're driving 3:30 left or whatever. Ross, what do you think?
Yeah, some of this came out in February, and this is kind of the last hurdle. I think it was kind of just rubber stamping it. But it's funny because they didn't approve it for Division III. So they approved it for Division I and II, and they didn't pass it for 3. And I think part of the reason they didn't pass it for 3 is, the time of game in Division III is already pretty short. And it's part of it is this is unnecessary. But they're going to go back and study it for Division III and work more on it, I think.
No TV for D3.
No TV in D2 too. A lot of coaches in D2 and D3, they really were, really against this. And you'll recall when I first reported some of this stuff in February, is that the 4 they approved 3 of the 4 proposals, and the 4th one, I'm convinced they threw in the 4th proposal, which would have been to keep the clock running after an incomplete pass. I'm convinced they threw that in there just as to help the other 3 pass. I think it was more like, see, we could go this far and stop the clock after an incomplete pass, coaches, or you could just take your medicine or whatever and be okay with the first down thing. So, and that's kind of exactly what happened, right? They didn't pass the incomplete pass one, but they ended up getting enough support for the first downs. Like Dan said, I think 8 to 10 plays. Steve Shaw says that 8 to 10 plays should be removed from games. If you do the numbers, maybe that'd be 5 to 7 minutes come off of a game. Now, Steve Shaw and some others that were around this, I mean, they're selling this obviously as a player safety issue. That's what they're starting to talk about this as. But, we've seen it. I think I had some numbers in my February story. I don't know if I'm trying to remember some of them right now, but the time of games obviously continues to get longer and longer. I think I want to say it was 3 hours and 22 minutes was maybe the average game time of a college game this past year, which was up from like the average over the last 5 years and was about 15 minutes, I believe, longer than an NFL game, an average NFL game. So I'm gonna let Pat take it, and I'm gonna go make sure all those numbers are right from that February story. But go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of it. I like it. I just think college football games are too long. Period. Congrats to D3 for not having the touchdown, timeout, kickoff, timeout dynamic, which TV necessitates. But just the average is 320 something. There's enough games that go 345, 4 hours that just I think they're really hard to sit through in the stadium or watching on TV. They're all, kickoff times are running over the next game. So I'm perfectly fine with this. I don't need more than a 3-hour football game. If it goes overtime and it's fun, okay, fine. But I don't need more than 3 hours of football every game because I'm going to watch them all on a given Saturday. So, whether it's player safety, I doubt it, but that's at least what they are talking about. I'm perfectly good with this rule implementation.
I mean, look, you take 10 plays off a game. You play 12 games. It's pretty much you've taken a game out of the season. Number of plays. There is a benefit. I will take if this is what helps them have a playoff. I'll take it. I don't know. It's when I've attended games as fans, the issue is the TV timeout.
Right.
It's just sitting there for 4 or 5 minutes as we honor another, another this or that. We'll bring out, here's our, this team was, all conference and, everyone cheer. It's a long,
Wetzel,
slow event.
More hating of the Olympic sports there. I can hear that.
Yes. Well, we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the field hockey team. It's like, okay, all right. I mean, it's good. It's nothing else to do, so might as well. But I think they should start putting other games on it's like you're at home. You click the jumbo screen to the other game and watch that for 5 minutes.
That's not a bad solution.
Here are the stats, by the way. There's stats from that story I was going to get. 3 hours off by 1 minute. 3 hours and 21 minutes was the average length of an FBS game this past season, which is 3 minutes more than the previous year, but the same as 2021. But it's 5 minutes more than 2018 and 2019, which averaged 3 hours and 16 minutes. The NFL games really hover right around 3 hours and 10 minutes. So a college game's around averages about 12 minutes more or so than the NFL the games. I mean, I think the big issue though, and I wrote this in here, it reminded me of it during a conversation with Steve Shaw, was not really the average game lengths, but the wide they vary greatly in the times. College games where the NFL is really consistent in between 3 minutes and 3 hours and 5 minutes and 3 hours and 15. Almost all NFL games are finish in that time span. In college, you can have 4 hour plus games a lot, or over 3.5 hours, which happens quite a bit. The thing is the big reason behind this isn't necessarily these rules, the length of games, as Dan had mentioned. Yeah, TV timeouts are an issue as well, but really it is the style of play. And when I was sitting in that conversation a couple months ago with Nick Saban, he brought that up. It really is the style of play in the NFL compared to college. It's the offense. It's the way an offense runs. It's the amount of plays an offense in college tries to get in, amount of passes, amount of incomplete passes in college compared to the NFL. So it is maybe the more of the style of play. And then, of course, it's the halftime, which in NFL halftimes are 12 minutes. In college halftimes are 20 minutes. That is almost certainly never going to change in college. They've tried. They've made attempts or even suggestions to reduce halftimes in college from the 20-minute mark. And the band director association of some sort,
band lobby, the band lobby,
it ends up pushing back against them to the point where it's just not going to happen. And commissioners I've talked to on this issue make a good point, right? Like, that's part of the pageantry of college sports. That way makes college sports different than the NFL. And their point is, let's stop trying to make it the NFL. Of course, on the athlete compensation issue, right? It's becoming more and more the NFL. I mean, college football is obviously becoming more and more professionalized, and their rules on the field probably are going to end up evolving that way as well. It's just probably a matter of time.
So the difference between NFL and college is 15 minutes on average?
Right, 12 to 15
12?
minutes. Yeah.
Okay, and eight of them are halftime?
That's right. I mean, so it's basically a 4 to 5 minute difference there.
Yeah.
But I think the big issue is how great they vary in times. It's the college games that go 340 plus, which there's way more of than NFL games that go 340 plus or something.
100%. Yeah. It's that Saturday night game between two spread offenses in the Big 12, and the game ends at 12:05 Eastern. It's just never like Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. It's just going on and on and on. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't see a lot of people tend to, game's popular.
The service academies help counterbalance that in terms of game length.
So
I'm sure Nick Saban be happy to line it up and run every time.
Oh, for sure.
About
1/5 of FBS games this past season, 1/5 of them, so around 20%, went longer than 3.5 hours. So that's kind of the number that they use to say we got to cut these out.
All right. Speaking of Alabama, spring game. Let's do a little spring game. Alabama defense, elite. Alabama offense, less elite. Now, maybe their problem was they were going against the Alabama defense. The QB battle. Jalen Milroe versus Ty Simpson. You think about the last four quarterbacks. We have Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and Bryce Young. Like, next fall, week 1 of the NFL, would that be 1/8 of the NFL will be quarterbacked by one of those guys?
Yeah, presuming Bryce Young starts,
maybe. I mean, he's going to start, let's say it's pretty quickly. 1/8 of the NFL is going to be by guys that played at Alabama in the last like 8 years, 7 years. I don't know when Jalen transferred, but whatever. So big position. Milroe started last year when Bryce Young was injured. Former 5-star or 4-star recruit out of Texas, and then Ty Simpson's a big recruit from Martin, Tennessee. They both looked okay. Stats: 19 of 37 for Milroe, 2 interceptions, 2 TDs, and then he ran for a touchdown and 65 yards. When I talk about the defense, he had 7 sacks. Now, they don't actually tackle you, so maybe he could have broken one of them. Simpson was 12 of 26 for 155 and 1 interception and a sack. There was a lot of complaints about drop balls. There was also the NIT matchup of the Bama quarterbacks, Eli Holstein and Dylan Lonergan. Basically, everybody thinks one of them will be in the portal at the end of the year. Two highly recruited freshmen. So it's like literally a recruiting strategy of like, we're trying to get elite QBs, but one of these two is leaving. I don't know if that's true, but should be. Lonergan was 8 of 14 for 79. Holstein was 3 of 6 for 61 with an interception. So that was the QB battle. So the QB play is not look as good. Who knows? But hey, this is an off-season podcast, and this is Alabama. Can we panic, Pat? Is it over?
Oh, absolutely panic. Are you kidding me? They're going 5-7. It's done. No. I was on record last year saying I think that the window of dominance is closed for Nick Saban in Alabama, so I'll stand by that until proven otherwise, and it has been proven otherwise to me before, so it might well happen again. But that they missed the playoff last year, lost 2 SEC games, didn't win the West with the likely number 1 draft pick at quarterback and one of the best quarterbacks they've had in school history. And the other guys may be excellent, but I don't think they're going to be as good as Bryce Young, certainly not right away. Watch Jalen Milroe. He's got some talent, but he wasn't Bryce Young. When I saw him, I was there when they played Texas A&M last year. So
that was a bad game for him.
It was.
As I recall.
Yes. The rest of the team's going to have to be really good, which Bama tends to be. Excellent across the board, really good defensively. They'll have really good skill guys. They'll have a great offensive line. I would assume those things will be true. But quarterback's important, and I'm not sure they're going to be great at quarterback.
Well, it's the portal era, so you have to wonder if there's an eye to the portal. The problem is, I don't know who's out there. We're now at the point at the spring portal, and well, first off, there's only 7 more days left that the portal is open, that kids can get in and play immediately. So you got to wonder who's out there. Over the weekend, there was a lot of buzz around Van Dyke at Miami that he was going to enter the portal, and there was a sense that that Alabama was a suitor. All that buzz ended, and I think he's committed to he apparently committed to staying at Miami. And there's been a lot of little buzz about Grayson McCall at Coastal. He entered the portal in the fall opening or the winter opening, and then stayed at Coastal despite, I think he visited Auburn, and there was some interest too from Florida, and that's another one, right? In the SEC, who might need a quarterback is Florida. But I don't know who's out there, and we got 7 days left of the portal being open. So, should be interesting, but gosh, it sure seems like the next great Alabama quarterback, which we normally have after one leaves, there's always that other. This year, there doesn't seem to be that other.
I mean, yeah. I'll believe none of these guys are good when I see it. Come on. You got
I don't want to say they're not good, but
4 top 150 guys. Like, these recruits are coveted recruits. You got 4 of them. Figure it out. I don't know. You've had years to develop them. It's not like they're just throwing dudes in. We'll see. I think that defense is going to be crazy. But look, this is the challenge they have. Georgia's always waiting. LSU, I think, is rising. It's there is a challenge for Alabama, and they have enjoyed I don't know. Has there been 4 straight NFL starters from a program?
Boy, I don't know. That's a good question.
Probably like a Miami back in the day or a USC. It's possible, but Jalen
Oklahoma
Hurts
pops up in my head recently.
Oklahoma, that includes Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. It does include Jalen Hurts. It was Hurts,
Oklahoma.
Murray, and Baker, but before Baker,
nobody.
I don't know. It's quite a run. So they'll figure it out. Maybe they go back to running a little bit more. Maybe they. I don't. Who the heck knows? I can't feel too bad. Justice Haynes looked really good, a freshman. And all that. LSU, both Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier look good in their spring game for what it's worth. Then you had the scene. We talked a lot about Colorado. We don't need to talk too much about it, but did you see the scene in Boulder? It was everything they promised. Phenomenal. Yeah. Put out a huge crowd. More than 45,000 showed up. They packed the place. It was snowing. Coach Prime was out there with his cowboy hat. It's so absurd, yet he makes it look cool.
Oh yeah.
Like he's just looks like he should be on Yellowstone or something. Like they need to get him on a Yellowstone as some kind of at least a 3-episode arc. Like get him on there. Place is crazy. It's snowing. He had this 98-year-old fan kicked off this woman, like the Sister Jean of Colorado, Boulder. I don't know. It's so good. This was exciting, though.
Yeah.
What I want to know is how much is, if you're watching this and you're the Pac-12, you're trying to get this TV deal, how much can you go back to like gas station TV and be like, we need $2 more million?
Yes. Hey, Exxon.
Look at Prime. We need exclusive Pump 4 exclusive 24 hours a day. Pac-12 football. Pump 4 of every gas station TV.
Actually, back in Vegas, at the Football Foundation in December, right in the middle of the Pac-12 negotiations and TV stuff, George Kliavkoff, the commissioner, told reporters that they were he basically suggested that they were renegotiating some things now that Prime was hired. Dion was hired at Colorado because he could give them, some added value in a way to this TV deal. And so he actually talked about it at length. There were some other people there, including a few commissioners, who kind of rolled their collective eyes at those comments. But no, I mean, look at what happened. Like, they were the only spring game, right? On main ESPN, I believe.
Yep. Main one. Yep.
Yeah.
No, it was mesmerizing. Look, if we see, this is how you're going to know if you're filling up and the Cheddar News comes on. Cheddar News. And Coach Prime, they're doing like a sit down instead. Like, they've turned into like a sit down interview and there's Coach Prime. You know what has gone on. That's what I would be like.
Pump 4 is the Coach Prime channel.
Coach Prime channel that people be lining up to get him. Coach
Chevron or wherever. Yeah. BP. It's a genius
This
marketing.
may turn out all right, this TV deal. It's unorthodox, but so isn't Coach Prime wearing a cowboy hat in a snowstorm and somehow making it seem okay.
Yes. Yeah. Here's the funny thing, man, is like, I will bet that Boulder County per capita has the fewest cowboy hats of any county in Colorado. That is not cowboy hat territory. That is, your beanie toboggan that you wear with your skateboard as you're rolling down Pearl Street Mall. It's just hilarious. That's not the front range of the Rockies. That's not the Western Slope. That's not where they're ranching, but it looks good on Prime. Mm-hmm. I love it. I said on Twitter, he's done more for the cowboy hat than anybody in football since Bum Phillips. He used to wear one for the Houston Oilers on the sideline.
He did. He bumped indoors.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Bum was the original cowboy coach, but I love it. I love everything about it. I mean, to get 47,000 plus there in crappy weather. was fantastic. So this is exactly why they hired Prime. We'll see if it carries over to the fall. We'll see if they're actually good. But the energy, the excitement, the curiosity is there.
Bum Phillips, man, I wish we had him at this pod.
Oh,
Tell you my
so
favorite Bum Phillips. He's a very, very funny guy. And so he had Earl Campbell, right? Earl Campbell played for Houston. Great Texas Longhorn. Most dominant short yardage back ever. And he could run too. Like he was the bus plus, right?
Yes.
Like if you remember the bus, incredible, right? And but they said at training camp, they were doing a training camp something, and someone asked Earl how fast he could run a mile, and he said, I can't run a mile, right? Like I'm short yardage guy. I can't run a mile. So they went to Bum Phillips and they said, Earl Campbell can't run a mile. What do you think of that? He says, well, when it's 4th and a mile, I won't put him in. Really give it.
No, the Bum quotes are phenomenal.
Yeah, legendary stuff.
He had one. Somebody asked him why he took his wife with him on road games. He said because she's too ugly to kiss goodbye.
God.
Good. Wow.
I'm sure she appreciated that one.
That. Yeah, that was.
I'm not sure that would fly very well.
You would certainly be canceled these days. You would be canceled.
Yeah, that's geez, Pat. Rough. Mrs. Phillips, I'm sure she was a fetching lady. Now, not everyone was impressed with the Colorado spring game, including Montana Lemonious-Craig, who had a very big game as a receiver, right?
Yeah, 150 yards.
Yeah, had a big game and then immediately hit the transfer portal. I thought the man lived in the portal. He was bringing him in. What is this? Does Prime want he had to have wanted him, right?
Louis in, Louis out, I guess, you know.
Yeah, Louis in, Louis out. That's kind of crazy.
We talked about it last pod, I think last week, about how some coaches really didn't want to be playing their star players too much during the spring game, or players that they needed, or even backups that they needed, because they would show out on national or regional TV or streaming, and other coaches would see them, and there would be overtures. And here we are, a day after Louis has 150 plus yards and touchdown in the spring game. He's in the portal, so I think this is probably happening quite a bit. This is kind of the thing. I got a text this morning actually about it from a coach who listens to the pod, and he pointed out to me that this is a real thing. It's happening where players are basically using the spring game, as a platform to advertise and kind of show their skills, which is fine, right? It should be how it is. If you're not playing at one school and you do well in your spring game and you have that platform, and obviously what ticks off coaches is that is the tampering, which you discussed before, is when one school sees a player playing a spring game, and so agent's going to reach out to that school for more money or more NIL money or some sort, and that's what's happening a lot, obviously.
Yeah, I looked it up. Montana Lemonious-Craig led CU in receiving last year with 23 catches and was second in yardage with 359 yards. Now, Colorado couldn't throw the ball at all last year. They were absolutely horrible. So his numbers are pretty modest, but still, he was an important part. And we'll see who picks him up. He's from Inglewood, California. See if he wants to go back to SoCal.
That might be it. I don't know. It's because leaving. I mean, that looks fun right now.
Yes,
that looks fun up at Colorado. Now, it might not be fun when they win 4 games next year, but which would be a heck of an improvement. Speaking of transfers, USC picked up Georgia defensive lineman Bear Alexander. Bear Alexander, not only all-name team, especially when you're 6'3", 305. Where did he get that nickname? He was slated. He had 9 tackles. Let's see, 3 for a loss, 2 sacks. I mean, he played last year as a true freshman at Georgia, and he was kind of in position to be one of their next, or many great Georgia linemen, and he's from Denton, Texas, but he's heading all the way to USC. Huge pickup to me for a couple reasons for USC. I mean, first, if you get someone from Georgia that projects to play is good, but they need big bodies. They need this kind of guy at USC desperately. Georgia's got an abundance. USC does not. And I like Lincoln Riley getting, he picked up a couple running backs from Texas. He's from Texas. Like, if they could ever start landing, I don't know, 1 to 2 defensive linemen out of the state of Texas to kind of help make up for the one thing they lack in Southern California is great linemen. I don't know, maybe it's something there, but I thought it was a notable transfer. Bear Alexander heading to the Trojans.
Huge. Well, we'll see. It's interesting. I don't sense a lot of like wailing and gnashing of teeth from Georgia over
They
this,
got guys. They got 4
they
more
got
Bears.
guys. They got guys. But USC doesn't have guys.
Right.
And so that's why this is important. I mean, USC gave up 5 yards per carry last year, 2,200 yards rushing overall. They were not a physically tough defense. They didn't necessarily rush the passer well. You know, they got a lot of things to fix on that side. So you get a 5-star guy who did have a sack and 2 tackles for loss in the championship game against TCU for Georgia. Then
Every backup padded their stats in the title game.
you know,
Hey, walk-ons are like, hey, man, I had 3 tackles in the title game. Well, of course you did.
I'm not going to dispute that necessarily. And that really honestly could have been one of those situations where Bear Alexander didn't play very much. He's making noise about wanting to leave. Well, we're winning by 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns. Get him in there. So, but it definitely, that's the kind of thing that USC needs. They had major issues on defense, and they've got to get tougher and more physical up front.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the last great USC defense, right? They have, it's been several years, and it's been a struggle on that side of the ball, especially at the front 7. It seems like that's the separating factor between them kind of getting to the next level, winning 9-10 games in the Pac-12 versus winning 11-12 games and getting into the playoff is that front 7. So certainly he'll help out there. Lincoln Riley, by the way, just they continue to stack transfers. They did this last year and kind of turned over the roster, and we're seeing it again. It's weird because they've had some interesting NIL issues there. They had 2 collectives that were kind of warring against each other, and the athletic department had kind of embraced one of them, but not the other. It's been interesting to watch kind of play out.
They also just did a lousy job of recruiting. I mean, Pat and I talked about this in the past, but like Mason Graham, who started a whole mess of games on Michigan's defensive line as a freshman, he's from Anaheim, and he wasn't recruited by USC until after Michigan offered him. He was going to Boise State, and then Michigan scouted him and came in and took him in September, and then USC offered. And it's like, this kid is plays every single game for the Michigan defensive line as a freshman, and he's right in their backyard, and they didn't even recruit him. That's just a bad job by USC. There are kids there. You can't lose guys like that, especially if you're now going into the Big Ten where there's a whole bunch of dudes like that. You can't be having Michigan come roll in and take your guy who's that good, right? Not just, and he was like a 3-star, but obviously he's much better than that if he's starting as a freshman or playing a lot as a freshman. I don't know if he's technically a starter, but he's a freshman All-American, things like that. So there's that. A quick note, I don't want to discuss this too much, but we'll get to it maybe another time. But because I have an epic People's Court ethics. I think we're going to start a new segment, ethics from us or something like that. College football podcast, College Football Enquirer ethics.
Yeah, we are known for our ethics.
We are known for our ethics, and people come to us with life advice. And I got to say, this is going to be unbelievable. But wait. I did think it was cool. Nebraska honored Frank Solich. They let Frank Solich come back. Great Cornhusker player and coach that they did dirty. Haven't been as good since he left. Went to Ohio. Very good guy. And Matt Rule honored him by running the halfback draw or whatever. What's that? Fullback. I'm sorry. Fullback.
Dive or trap.
Yeah.
Fullback trap.
Trap. Right. On the old triple option. In the first play, and everyone who was there read a really good Tom Chattel column in Omaha. It was like people were crying and like it was emotional. Now Nebraska, that's all they got. But hey, it was cool. So hats off to Matt Rule, Nebraska fans, and Frank Solich. All right, let me get to this.
Okay.
All right.
So fans, right? We have passionate fans in college football. I think and some of the most passionate fans in the world. The rivalries get extremely intense. We've already alluded to trees being poisoned, okay? The English Premier League also has very passionate fans. So here is the situation. This guy, Stuart Slan, he is 39. He is from Sheffield, England. He is a big Manchester United supporter. And he was on vacation in Cancun. And he met two guys who were, was it two men or just two people? Two fans. We don't know exactly. Not determined. This is all from the Daily Mail, of course. Daily Mail all over the story. Two people who are Liverpool fans. So this would be a big rivalry, Manchester United versus Liverpool. And they meet, and there was a lot of arguing about their teams. And then, according to the Daily Mail, on one occasion, Mr. Slan was thrown into the pool. So I don't know how heated this got, how big of a jerk Slan is, how big of a jerk the Liverpool fans are, whatever. But there was at least one pool throwing and a lot of arguing on the vacation. Now, if you're in Cancun, just enjoy your time.
Yeah.
Would be my advice. But whatever. This is what stirs the pot here. So the Liverpool fans decide as they come back that they are going to try to up the ante in this rivalry with Mr. Slan. And let me just state, so I'll get to it. So what they do is they set up a online profile of a woman named Emma. And Emma begins reaching out to Mr. Slan, Stuart Slan, and flirting with him online for weeks.
Oh, boy.
And the issue here is Mr. Slan was married at the time. So he was married to, I'm going to believe, the lovely Louise, 32. Louise is identified in here. Poor Louise. Anyway, Emma invites Mr. Slan, Stuart Slan, to come to meet her. And sure enough, he drives 400 miles.
God.
Okay, 9-hour drive, they said, to meet up with this Emma.
Oh, jeez.
Goes to a farmhouse somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and then gets there and then is told Emma's at work. And so then he hangs around for 3.5 hours and then is told it's a farce. They tape the conversations on the phone of him trying to get a hold of Emma and all this and post it on YouTube and Facebook.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Young Louise, Mr. Slan's wife, then discovers he had intended to have the affair and he ended their marriage, according to the Daily News. So let me start with this. All blame falls on Mr. Slan, right? Mm-hmm. So it's his fault for, this whole bit. Don't talk to the Emma. Don't drive 400 miles to meet Emma. You're married. 100% all his fault. We're going to go with that. However, here's Mr. Slan's comments. Of course, this is why I love the Daily Mail. They get the interview, right? Mm-hmm. They get the interview. And the Daily Mail calls and says, we need a comment. You have to give them the comment because there's people like me out there in the world that want to know the whole story. It was a cruel thing to do, Mr. Slan said. I've been taken for a ride. I've been chatting to this girl on Facebook for about a month or so. I really thought she was genuine. I had no reason to doubt it. On the night they asked me to Scotland. No, he drove to Scotland. I was on the road for about 9 hours. When I got to this remote farm, she sent me a text to say she's still at work. That's what made it worse. Not only had I driven for 9 hours, but I had to wait for another 3.5 hours for her to finish work. Then I got a call to say it was a hoax, and I just felt awful. Does not seem like the worst part of this story. It would be losing your marriage, but I don't know. If I had asked to drive to Manchester, Leeds, or even Liverpool, it wouldn't have been so bad. Maybe I would have seen the funny side. But drag me all the way to Aberdeen, Scotland was just cruel. So Mr. Slan's got issues, okay? He's totally missed the boat on this story.
Not a lot of personal accountability there, man.
No, or even like, I apologize to Louise, right?
Yeah.
Or Louise, or whatever she is. But he's all about him. So maybe Louise is actually the winner here because this guy's not.
Yeah.
He's been thrown in a pool. He's been driven to Aberdeen. So here is our ethical question. Okay, here's our ethical question. Did the Liverpool fans go too far here? Is all fair in rivalries, or is it like you're now? I mean, again, it's all his fault, but like this is an elaborate plot of entrapment and like he just truly effing with a guy here. Like is there a line? Is there a line here? Pat Forde, what is the ethical line? Did they cross it, or is there no line when it's Liverpool, Man U, or Alabama, Auburn, or Ohio State, Michigan? I know some fan out there is thinking of this right now. There's some Buckeye fan like, I've had enough of these Michigan fans. I met that guy at Cedar Point. That Michigan guy drove down. I am going to trap that guy and cost him his marriage, blow his family to smithereens.
Look, Dave, this is worse than Harvey Updike. Come on now. Those are just trees. This is an actual human being's marriage that you're just destroying. And yes, Richard's the person to blame, right? But holy moly.
Stewart.
I mean, that is Stewart, whatever the hell his name is. Yeah, Stewart. But that's malicious, man. That's yikes. Come on.
Well, to publicize it, to put it on YouTube.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, like if you kept it private, it might be like one thing. I guess it'd be
public
pretty
humiliation for him and for the former Mrs. Slan. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Former Mrs.
That is woo. Yep. Nope. Justice Forde definitely says excessive.
Yeah.
Excessive fan behavior. I'd
agree. A little too far, especially publicizing it. Also, man, this man driving 400 miles, 9 hours for a, internet girlfriend while married. I mean, yeah, the Mrs. Slan got. I'm surprised Mrs. Slan stayed with Mr. Slan as long as they were together, which I don't know how long they were together. Does Daily Mail give us a marriage time? How many years they were together? Yeah.
Do we know how old Stewart is?
Stewart's 39.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have enough info on the marriage. They really just breeze by the marriage and just go with their interview.
Yeah.
I love the Daily Mail, but it wasn't their best moment. I don't know.
Well, 400 miles, 9 hours. He's not making very good time.
So
how fast is he going? Not very
fast.
On the original YouTube video, which has been deleted because there was a lot of obscene language. The Liverpool fans get Stewart on the phone. They say, "Do you recognize our voices, Stewart?" It's them. I don't know what it is. Scouse lads. I don't know, whatever. England talk. It's them lads who threw you in the pool. Do you recognize our accents? And he said, "Yes, I do." And he says, and they said, "You've been framed." And then they burst into laughter.
Wow.
I hope they did the mwah ha 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 ha. Laughter in the back.
Brutal.
It's
I think in the end, the winner is the wife that got rid of this clown.
Yeah.
But it's not helpful right now. But man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We didn't hear from Mrs. Slan, I guess, huh? She's probably not granting any interviews.
Not even the Luis, not even the Daily Mail could score an interview with. I'm sure they're trying.
By the way,
needless to say.
our dude was only driving 44 miles an hour to get there. So
well, it's those back roads, man. This ain't the should have taken the train.
True.
It all comes back to the trains. Yes. Should have taken the train.
Let me look here at a map of Aberdeen, Scotland, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you just get up to those places real easy.
Maybe not.
Maybe he was slow. I don't know. What was he doing?
I've been to Scotland. I haven't been to Aberdeen.
Let's see where this thing is.
A lot of people really liked our train talk, by the way. I'm still getting messages about our train, transportation discussion, including one that I got yesterday from, we'll just say Joe on Twitter, who said the short answer is the big three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, many decades ago fought against mass transportation in order to build their auto industry empires, which I don't know if it's true, but makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. I suspect.
Well, I think the highway construction. I mean, that's the biggest. That's money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just getting government billions and billions and billions. Yeah. Yeah. There's been a few people that have tried to argue back that the train isn't good, but almost not. I'm always like, they're like, well, it'll take government money, and I'm like, well, what's the highway? Like they're constantly building the highway. I'm not fine with that.
By the way, I took the train in New York
and let it sit. Like, geez.
I took the train in New York this past weekend, from DC, and on the way back, a woman got on the train. A young woman got on the train, maybe around 19, 20, and she got on the wrong train. She meant to go north, and she got on the southern train. There was a lot of crying, and there was a lot of issues. And then, like a few stops later, a man got on the train to help his sister put her baggage, like load her baggage up, because she was older and couldn't load her baggage. So he was supposed to get off, and the train started moving. They closed the doors, and he was stuck on the train for another stop. There was a lot of drama in my car on the train back from New York Sunday.
Well, it's not. Yeah, you gotta. It's a little bit more. It's just you gotta deal with all the stuff yourself.
Well, and they call last call, last call for this stop, last call for this stop. They called last call, but it was about 20 seconds later, after the last call, they closed those doors and
they move them.
And then all of a sudden I was like napping and I was woken up by the man screaming, "I gotta get off this train. It's moving." And it was too late. Yeah. Too late.
Supposed to be a 6 hour and 41 minute drive from Sheffield to what is I'll say this. The only good thing I can say about Stewart, the only good thing I can say is he was a cautious driver.
He was a cautious driver. He pulled over a lot to eat or whatever.
This guy's a goofball. Such a long trip.
Sean weighs in.
Sean,
if I was his wife, I wouldn't give an interview either, thinking that this is the guy I married.
I would have done the interview and been like, the dude is an idiot. He gets thrown in a pool. He gets tricked by these two drunken Liverpool fans at Cancun. He falls for this Emma. He's in the middle of a field in Scotland. Can you believe these Liverpool fans must have been like, I can't even believe this guy's doing this.
What a dope.
Yeah. All right.
Look, bottom line, when you go to Cancun, don't talk trash about your favorite sports team. Just lie on the beach and drink drinks and hang out. Don't form enemies over
this is your vacation. You go all the way to Cancun, enjoy yourself. Don't be like, I'm going to argue this. But some of our listeners can't give it up. Can't give it up. They see somebody, got to have an argument. So, I guess this is better than college football's way is usually shooting each other, right?
Right. At least there's no death.
It's better than that because that too ends a marriage. That too ends the marriage. Anyway, let's be maybe a little kinder to each other, but I think in the end, the marriage had no chance. So it was an unfortunate ending and embarrassing to be in the Daily Mail, but your divorce was so epic that they ended up talking about it in America on a totally different sports podcast. Okay, that includes this week's ethic debate.
We'll have more.
Well, more. I might set up a ethics question email or something, or if you have questions, you can hit us on Twitter. A good ethical debate. I really feel that the country is a little bit of, we're just sort of, we're drifting. We need some leadership.
Yep.
So this is from that was from Nemo. I'll just leave it at that.
Here comes the podcast to the rescue to keep our country from drifting too far.
Yeah. Nemo had previously sent a story. Remember when Geico had to pay $5.2 million to the woman who got the STD in the car that was insured by Geico, which I just still don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nemo really works the corners of the internet. I like this guy.
Yes, he does.
I don't want to know what else is on there. Oh, one more final bit from a longtime listener. Michael Benson, president of Coastal Carolina, sent us word of the new Coastal Carolina mascot, Maddox. It is a gamecock, or whatever they call it. It's not, he said, it's not the cock commander, but it does have its rooster comb.
Yeah.
So is a Chanticleer one of these fighting birds too?
I don't know.
Well, they're a fancy rooster.
It's like a mythical rooster or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know whether they fight, but that's what a Chanticleer is a rooster.
All right.
And yes, he pointed out that it does have the comb on the bird, right?
Does have the comb.
Yep. So.
Oh, the comb is more humane, though, right? You're supposed to get rid of. All right, I got it all wrong. This is why I could never get into Coastal Carolina.
The Chanticleer is a proud and a fierce rooster, according to Coastal Carolina's description of the Chanticleer.
Okay, well, this thing looks pretty badass. Its cage has teal AstroTurf kind of setup. So way to go, Maddox, at CCU Maddox. That's it. So good job, Coastal.
Follow the Chanticleer, and he'll lead us all to glory.
Yeah, I love it. Coastal does pretty good work. Yep. All right, that's our pod. We're already too late. We're going to be back. We're going to come in after the draft. If you've longtime listeners, things get a little shaky after the draft. Sometimes our late night shows
after the first round Thursday night draft podcast is usually fairly memorable.
Everyone gets a little hopped up, but we are going to analyze the first round of the draft, see where everyone goes. Man, I saw a story. Will Levis, second pick. Oh my goodness.
Come on.
Oh my goodness. He's eating his bananas with the skin on, all his little tricks. I can't believe it. And I'm sure James Franklin can't believe it, but we'll see. I don't know if that will be true. We will analyze the deal. So we'll be back. You'll get us first thing Friday morning. We'll be up on your feeds with the draft analysis from the College Football Enquirer. Till then, keep subscribing, leave us nice reviews, and we will talk to you later.